Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.spider. Import java.utility vector. Class text area extends tag. Private string value equals null. Private string type equals null. Private static final parser tag parser equals new parser tag. Tag.text area, parser tag.closing underscore tag underscore yes. Static text area get text areas, string doc. Vector text areas equals new vector. Parser.parse, doc. While, parser.next tag. String content equals parser.getContent. String address equals parser.getAddress. Text area equals new text area. Text area.build address, address. Text area.build, content. Text areas.add element, text area. Text area result equals new text areas.size. Result equals, text areas.toArray, result. Return result. Protected void build, string content. Value equals content. At return returns the type. Public string get type. Return type. At return returns the value. Public string get value. Return value. Package org.paros proxy.paros.common. Public class thread pool. Private thread pool equals null. Public thread pool, int max thread count. Pool equals new thread max thread count. Get a free thread from thread pool. If there is no free thread, return null. Public synchronized thread get free thread andron, runnable. 4. Int I equals 0, I pool.length, I++. If, pool I equals null, pool I dot is alive. Pool I equals new thread, runnable. Pool I dot set daemon, true. Pool I dot start. Return pool I. Return null. Wait until all thread completed tasks, at most some time for each. If not completed yet, do not wait. Each thread should kill itself. Public void waitil thread complete, int wait in millis. 4. Int I equals 0, I pool.length, I++. If, pool I, equals null and pool I dot is alive. Try. Pool I dot join, wait in millis. Catch, interrupted exception E. Public boolean isal thread complete. 4. Int I equals 0, I pool.length, I++. If, pool I, equals null and pool I dot is alive. Return false. Return true. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension.trap. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.abstract panel. Import javax.swing.jpanel. Import javax.swing.j checkbox. Import java.awt.color. Import java.awt.gridbag layout. Import java.awt.gridbag constraints. Import javax.swing.jlabel. Import javax.swing.j text area. Import javax.swing.j scroll pane. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class trap filter panel extends abstract panel. Private jpanel equals null. Private jpanel 1 equals null. Private j checkbox chkanabaline inclusive a filter equals null. Private jlabel equals null. Private j text area tst inclusive a filter equals null. Private jlabel 1 equals null. Private j checkbox chkanaba exclusive a filter equals null. Private j text area tst exclusive a filter equals null. Private jlabel 2 equals null. Private j scroll pane equals null. Private J scroll pane 1 equals null. Public trap filter panel. Super. Initialize. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. JLabel equals new JLabel. Gridbag constraints 2 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 1 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 3 equals new gridbag constraints. This dot set layout, new gridbag layout. This dot set size, 405, 297. Gridbag constraints 1 dot gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1 dot grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1 dot insets equals new java dot awt dot insets, 2, 2, 2, 2. Gridbag constraints 1 dot anchor equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot northwest. Gridbag constraints 1 dot fill equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot horizontal. Gridbag constraints 1 dot weights equals 1.0 d. Gridbag constraints 1 dot weighty equals 0.5 d. Gridbag constraints 2 dot gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 2 dot gridy equals 1. Gridbag constraints 2 dot insets equals new java dot awt dot insets, 2, 2, 2, 2. Gridbag constraints 2 dot weighty equals 0.5 d. Gridbag constraints 2 dot weights equals 1.0 d. Gridbag constraints 2 dot anchor equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot northwest. Gridbag constraints 2 dot fill equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot horizontal. JLabel dot set text. Gridbag constraints 3 dot anchor equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot northwest. Gridbag constraints 3 dot fill equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot both. Gridbag constraints 3 dot gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 3 dot gridy equals 2. Gridbag constraints 3 dot weights equals 1.0 d. Gridbag constraints 3 dot weighty equals 1.0 d. This dot add, get jpanel, gridbag constraints 1. This dot add, get jpanel 1, gridbag constraints 2. This dot add, JLabel, gridbag constraints 3. This method initializes jpanel. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel. If jpanel equals null. JLabel 1 equals new JLabel. Gridbag constraints 4 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 5 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 6 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 10 equals new gridbag constraints. Jpanel equals new jpanel. Jpanel dot set layout, new gridbag layout. JLabel 1 dot set text, multiple filter can be defined. Use as wildcard and, for delimiter. Gridbag constraints 4 dot gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 4 dot gridy equals 0. Gridbag constraints 4 dot insets equals new java dot awt dot insets, 2, 2, 2, 2. Gridbag constraints 4 dot anchor equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot northwest. Gridbag constraints 4 dot fill equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot both. Gridbag constraints 4 dot weights equals 1.0 d. Gridbag constraints 5 dot gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 5 dot gridy equals 1. Gridbag constraints 5 dot gridwidth equals 0. Gridbag constraints 5 dot weights equals 1.0. Gridbag constraints 5 dot weighty equals 0.0 d. Gridbag constraints 5 dot fill equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot both. Gridbag constraints 5 dot insets equals new java dot awt dot insets, 2, 2, 2, 2. Gridbag constraints 5 dot anchor equals java dot awt dot gridbag constraints dot northwest. Gridbag constraints 5 dot ipad equals 15. Gridbag constraints 6 dot gridx equals 0. Grid bag constraints 6.grid equals 2. Grid bag constraints 6.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,2. Grid bag constraints 6.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.northwest. Grid bag constraints 6.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.horizontal. jpanel.setBorder, javax.swing.borderFactory.createATitled null, trap when URI matches, inclusive filter, javax.swing.border.titledBorder.default_justification, javax.swing.border.titledBorder.default_position, new java.awt.font, dialog, java.awt.font.plain, 11, java.awt.color.black. Grid bag constraints 10.weights equals 1.0. Grid bag constraints 10.weighty equals 0.0d. Grid bag constraints 10.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.both. Grid bag constraints 10.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.northwest. Grid bag constraints 10.gridx equals 0. Grid bag constraints 10.grid equals 1. Grid bag constraints 10.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,2. Grid bag constraints 10.ipad equals 15. jpanel.add, getchcanable inclusive a filter, grid bag constraints 4. jpanel.add, get jscrollPane, grid bag constraints 10. jpanel.add, jlabel 1, grid bag constraints 6. Return jpanel. This method initializes jpanel1. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel1. If jpanel1 equals null. jlabel2 equals new jlabel. Grid bag constraints 7 equals new grid bag constraints. Grid bag constraints 9 equals new grid bag constraints. Grid bag constraints 11 equals new grid bag constraints. jpanel1 equals new jpanel. jpanel1.set layout, new grid bag layout. jlabel2.set text, multiple filter can be defined. Use as wildcard end, for delimiter. Grid bag constraints 7.gridx equals 0. Grid bag constraints 7.grid equals 0. Grid bag constraints 7.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,2. Grid bag constraints 7.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.northwest. Grid bag constraints 7.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.horizontal. Grid bag constraints 9.gridx equals 0. Grid bag constraints 9.grid equals 2. Grid bag constraints 9.gridwidth equals 1. Grid bag constraints 9.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,2. Grid bag constraints 9.anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.northwest. Grid bag constraints 9.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.horizontal. Grid bag constraints 9.weights equals 1.0d. jpanel1.setBorder, javax.swing.borderFactory.createATitled null, do not trap when URI matches, exclusive filter, javax.swing.border.titledBorder.default_justification, javax.swing.border.titledBorder.default_position, new java.awt.font, dialog, java.awt.font.plain, 11, java.awt.color.black. Grid bag constraints 11.weights equals 1.0. Grid bag constraints 11.weighty equals 0.0d. Grid bag constraints 11.fill equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.both. Grid bag constraints 11.ipad equals 15. Grid bag constraints 11.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,2. Grid bag constraints 11.gridx equals 0. Grid bag constraints 11.grid equals 1. Grid bag constraints 11. Anchor equals java.awt.gridbagconstraints.northwest. jpanel1. Add, getCanaba exclusive a filter, grid bag constraints 7. jpanel1. Add, get jscrollpane 1, grid bag constraints 11. jpanel1. Add, jlabel 2, grid bag constraints 9. Return jpanel1. This method initializes jcheckbox. At return javax.swing.jcheckbox. jcheckbox getCanaba line inclusive a filter. If chcanaba line inclusive a filter equals null. chcanaba line inclusive a filter equals new jcheckbox. chcanaba line inclusive a filter dot set text, use inclusive filter. chcanaba line inclusive a filter dot add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Set inclusive a filter, chcanaba line inclusive a filter dot is selected. Return chcanaba line inclusive a filter. This method initializes jTextArea. At return javax.swing.jTextArea. jTextArea gets inclusive a filter. If tst inclusive a filter equals null. tst inclusive a filter equals new jTextArea. tst inclusive a filter dot set font, new java.awt.font, dialog, java.awt.font.plain, 11. tst inclusive a filter dot set line wrap, true. tst inclusive a filter dot set border, javax.swing.border factory.createType border, 0,0,0,0. tst inclusive a filter dot set rows, 3. Return tst inclusive a filter. This method initializes jcheckbox 1. At return javax.swing.jcheckbox. jcheckbox getCanaba exclusive a filter. If chcanaba exclusive a filter equals null. chcanaba exclusive a filter equals new jcheckbox. chcanaba exclusive a filter dot set text, use exclusive filter. chcanaba exclusive a filter dot add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Set exclusive a filter, chcanaba exclusive a filter dot is selected. Return chcanaba exclusive a filter. This method initializes jTextArea 1. At return javax.swing.jTextArea. jTextArea gets exclusive a filter. If tst exclusive a filter equals null. tst exclusive a filter equals new jTextArea. tst exclusive a filter dot set font, new java.awt.font, dialog, java.awt.font.plain, 11. tst exclusive a filter dot set line wrap, true. tst exclusive a filter dot set rows, 3. tst exclusive a filter dot set border, javax.swing.border factory.createType border, 0,0,0,0. Return tst exclusive a filter. This method initializes jscrollpane. At return javax.swing.jscrollpane. Private jscrollpane get jscrollpane. If jscrollpane equals null. jscrollpane equals new jscrollpane. jscrollpane.set viewport view, gets inclusive a filter. jscrollpane.s the horizontal scroll bar policy, javax.swing.jscrollpane.horizontal_scroll bar_never. Return jscrollpane. This method initializes jscrollpane 1. At return javax.swing.jscrollpane. Private jscrollpane get jscrollpane 1. If jscrollpane 1 equals null. jscrollpane 1 equals new jscrollpane. jscrollpane 1.set viewport view, gets exclusive a filter. jscrollpane 1.s the horizontal scroll bar policy, javax.swing.jscrollpane.horizontal_scroll bar_never. Return jscrollpane 1. Void set inclusive a filter, boolean is enabled. tst inclusive a filter dot set enabled, is enabled. Color equals color dot white. If is enabled. Text inclusive a filter dot set text. Color equals this dot get background. Text inclusive a filter dot set background, color. Void set exclusive a filter, boolean is enabled. Text exclusive a filter dot set enabled, is enabled. Color equals color dot white. If, is enabled. Text exclusive a filter dot set text. Color equals this dot get background. Text exclusive a filter dot set background, color. At javedical index equals 0 visual constraint equals 10,10. Package org.parosproxy.paros.extension.trap. Import org.parosproxy.paros.control.control. Import org.parosproxy.paros.view.http panel. Import javax.swing.jbutton. Import java.awt.gridbag constraints. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class trap panel extends HTTP panel. Private javax.swing.jpanel panel command equals null. Private javax.swing.j checkbox prequest equals null. Private javax.swing.j checkbox response equals null. Private javax.swing.j button btn continue equals null. Private javax.swing.j label equals null. Private boolean is continue equals false. Private j button btn drop equals null. Public trap panel. Super. Initialize. At param is editable. Public trap panel, boolean is editable. Super, is editable. Initialize. At return returns the is continue. Public boolean is continue. Return is continue. At param is continue the is continue to set. Public void set continue, boolean is continue. This dot is continue equals is continue. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. This dot set layout, new java.awt.gridbag layout. This dot set size, 600, 400. This dot set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 600,400. Get pane option, .add, get panel command. This method initializes panel command. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private javax.swing.jpanel get panel command. If, panel command equals null. Java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 11 equals new java.awt.gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 3 equals new java.awt.gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 2 equals new java.awt.gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 1 equals new java.awt.gridbag constraints. Panel command equals new javax.swing.jpanel. Gridbag constraints 1 equals new gridbag constraints. Panel command set layout, new java.awt.gridbag layout. Gridbag constraints 1.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 0,0,0,0. Gridbag constraints 1.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.west. Gridbag constraints 2.gridx equals 1. Gridbag constraints 2.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 2.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 0,0,0,0. Gridbag constraints 2.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.west. Gridbag constraints 3.gridx equals 3. Consgridbag constraints 3.gride equals 0. Consgridbag constraints 3.insets equals new java.awt.insets 0,2,0,2. Consgridbag constraints 3.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.east. Consgridbag constraints 3.ipad equals 0. Panel command.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 600,30. Panel command.set name, command. Consgridbag constraints 11.fill equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.horizontal. Consgridbag constraints 11.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.west. Consgridbag constraints 11.gridx equals 2. Consgridbag constraints 11.gride equals 0. Consgridbag constraints 11.weights equals 1.0d. Gridbag constraints 1.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.northeast. Gridbag constraints 1.gridx equals 4. Gridbag constraints 1.gride equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 0,2,0,2. Panel command.add, getJTrip request, consgridbag constraints 1. Panel command.add, getJTrip response, consgridbag constraints 2. Panel command.add, getJLabel, consgridbag constraints 11. Panel command.add, getPnContinue, consgridbag constraints 3. Panel command.add, getPtundrop, gridbag constraints 1. Return panel command. This method initializes JTrip request. At return javax.swing.j checkbox. Public javax.swing.j checkbox get JTrip request. If JTrip request equals null. JTrip request equals new javax.swing.j checkbox. JTrip request.set text, trap request. JTrip request.add item listener, new java.awt.event.item listener. Public void item state changed, java.awt.event.item event e. If JTrip request.is selected, and JTrip response.is selected. Control.getSingleton.getProxy, .setSerialize, false. Else. Control.getSingleton.getProxy, .setSerialize, true. Return JTrip request. This method initializes JTrip response. At return javax.swing.j checkbox. Public javax.swing.j checkbox get JTrip response. If JTrip response equals null. JTrip response equals new javax.swing.j checkbox. JTrip response.set text, trap response. JTrip response.add item listener, new java.awt.event.item listener. Public void item state changed, java.awt.event.item event e. If JTrip request.is selected, and JTrip response.is selected. Control.getSingleton.getProxy, .setSerialize, false. Else. Control.getSingleton.getProxy, .setSerialize, true. Return JTrip response. This method initializes btn continue. At return javax.swing.j button. Private javax.swing.j button get continue. If btn continue equals null. btn continue equals new javax.swing.j button. btn continue.set text, continue. btn continue.add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Set continue, true. Return btn continue. This method initializes JLabel. At return javax.swing.jLabel. Private javax.swing.jLabel get JLabel. If JLabel equals null. JLabel equals new javax.swing.jLabel. JLabel.set text. Return JLabel. This method initializes btn drop. At return javax.swing.jbutton. Private jbutton get button drop. If btn drop equals null. btn drop equals new jbutton. btn drop dot set text drop. btn drop dot add action listener new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed java.awt.event.action event e. Trap panel. This set message false. Set continue true. Return btn drop. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension.trap. Import java.utility.regex.matcher. Import java.utility.regex.pattern. Import org.paros proxy.paros.common.abstract.param. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class trap aram extends abstract param. Private static final string trap equals trap. Private static final string inclusive underscore filter equals trap dot inclusive filter. Private static final string exclusive underscore filter equals trap dot exclusive filter. Private string inclusive filter equals. Private string exclusive filter equals. Private pattern inclusive a filter equals null. Private pattern exclusive a filter equals null. At param root element name. Public trap aram. Non-javadoc. At ccom proof secure.paros.common.file xml number parse. Protected void parse. Set inclusive a filter, getConfig, .getString, inclusive underscore filter. Set exclusive a filter, getConfig, .getString, exclusive underscore filter. Private void parse inclusive a filter, string inclusive filter. Pattern inclusive a filter equals null. If inclusive filter equals null inclusive filter dot equals. Return. Inclusive filter equals inclusive filter dot replace all, backslash dot, backslash dot. Inclusive filter equals inclusive filter dot replace all, backslash dot. Replace all, plus dollar, plus. Inclusive filter equals, plus inclusive filter dot replace all, plus dollar. Pattern inclusive a filter equals pattern dot compile, inclusive filter, pattern dot case underscore insensitive. Private void parse exclusive a filter, string exclusive filter. Pattern exclusive a filter equals null. If exclusive filter equals null exclusive filter dot equals. Return. Exclusive filter equals exclusive filter dot replace all, backslash dot, backslash dot. Exclusive filter equals exclusive filter dot replace all, backslash dot. Replace all, plus dollar, plus. Exclusive filter equals, plus exclusive filter dot replace all, plus dollar. Pattern exclusive a filter equals pattern dot compile, exclusive filter, pattern dot case underscore insensitive. At return returns the exclusive filter. Public string get exclusive a filter. Return exclusive filter. At param exclusive filter the exclusive filter to set. Public void set exclusive a filter, string exclusive filter. This dot exclusive filter equals exclusive filter. Parse exclusive a filter, this dot exclusive filter. GetConfig, dot set property, exclusive underscore filter, this dot exclusive filter. At return returns the inclusive filter. Public string get inclusive a filter. Return inclusive filter. At param inclusive filter the inclusive filter to set. Public void set inclusive a filter, string inclusive filter. This dot inclusive filter equals inclusive filter. Parse inclusive a filter, this dot inclusive filter. GetConfig, dot set property, inclusive underscore filter, this dot inclusive filter. Public boolean is include, string s. Boolean result equals true. Matcher equals null. If, pattern inclusive a filter, equals null. Try. Matcher equals pattern inclusive a filter dot matcher, s. If, matcher dot find. Result equals true. Else. Result equals false. Catch, exception e. Return result. Public boolean is exclude, string s. Boolean result equals false. Matcher equals null. If, pattern exclusive a filter, equals null. Try. Matcher equals pattern exclusive a filter dot matcher, s. If, matcher dot find. Result equals true. Else. Result equals false. Catch, exception e. Return result. Packageorg.parosproxy.paros.core.scanner. Import java.utility vector. Import java.utility regex.pattern. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http message. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Abstract public class variant abstract query implements variant. Private static pattern param equals pattern.compile, and pattern.case underscore insensitive. Private vector list param equals new vector. Public variant abstract query. Abstract protected void build message, HTTP message, string query. Return encoded mutate of the value. To be overridden by subclass. At param message. At param value. At return encoded value. Protected string getter encoded value, HTTP message, string value. Return value. Protected void parse, string params. If, params equals null params dot equals. Return. String key value equals static pattern param dot split, params. String key equals null. String value equals null. Int pos equals 0. 4. Int I equals 0, I key value dot length, I plus plus. Key equals null. Value equals null. Pos equals key value I dot index of, equals. Try. If, pos 0. Key equals key value I dot substring, 0 pos. Value equals key value I dot substring, pos plus 1. Else. Key equals key value I. Value equals null. List param dot add, new name value pair, key, value, I. Catch, exception e. Public vector get param list. Return list param. If name and value equals null, not to append entire param. Public string set parameter, HTTP message, name value pair original pair, string name, string value. String buffer SB equals new string buffer. Name value pair equals null. Boolean is appended equals false. 4. Int I equals 0, I get param list, dot size, I++. Pair equals, name value pair, get param list, dot get, I. If, I equals original pair dot get position. String encoded value equals getter encoded value, message, value. Is appended equals param append, SB, name, encoded value. Else. Is appended equals param append, SB, pair dot get name, pair dot get value. If, is appended and I get param list, dot size, 1. SB append, and. String query equals SB toString. Build message, query. Return query. Set the name value pair into the string buffer. If both name and value is null. Not to append whole param tetter. At param SB. At param name null equals not to append parameter. At param value null equals not to append parameter value. At return true equals parrot mer changed. Private boolean param append, string buffer SB, string name, string value. String param equals name. Boolean is edited equals false. If, name, equals null. SB append, name. Is edited equals true. If, value, equals null. SB append, equals. SB append, value. Is edited equals true. Return is edited. Package org.parosproxy.paros.core.scanner. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http header. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http message. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class variant form query extends variant abstract query. Private static final string app underscore URL underscore encoded equals applications www form URL encoded. Private static final string www underscore form underscore URL encoded equals www form URL encoded. Public variant form query. Super. Public void set message, HTTP message. Parse, message get request body, dot toString. Protected void build message, HTTP message, string query. Message get request body, dot set body, query. Protected string getter encoded value, HTTP message, string value. String content type equals null. String encoded equals. Content type equals message get request header, dot get header, HTTP header dot content underscore type. If, value, equals null. If, content type, equals null and content type dot to lowercase, dot ends with, www underscore form underscore URL encoded. Encoded equals abstract plugin dot get URL encode, value. Return encoded. Package org.parosproxy.paros.core.scanner. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri exception. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http message. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class variant URL query extends variant abstract query. Public variant URL query. Super. Public void set message, HTTP message. Try. Parse, message get request header, dot get URI, dot get query. Catch, URI exception E. E.print stack trace. Protected void build message, HTTP message, string query. Try. Message get request header, .get URI, .set query, query. Catch, URI exception e.print stack trace. Package org.paros proxy.paros.view. Import java.utility vector. Import javax.swing.jobshinpane. Import org.paros proxy.paros.constant. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.viewDelegate. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class view implements viewDelegate. Private static view equals null. Private find dialog equals null. Private session dialog equals null. Private options dialog equals null. Private log panel equals null. Private mainframe equals null. Private HTTP panel request panel equals null. Private HTTP panel response panel equals null. Private sitemap panel equals null. Private output panel equals null. Private vector pop-up list equals new vector. At return returns the mainframe. Public mainframe get mainframe. Return mainframe. At return returns the request panel. Public HTTP panel get request panel. Return request panel. At return returns the response panel. Public HTTP panel get response panel. Return response panel. Public void init. Mainframe equals new mainframe. Sitemap panel equals new sitemap panel. Output panel equals new output panel. Do not allow editable in request panel. Get workbench, .get added, get request panel. Get workbench, .get add, get response panel. Log panel .set display panel, request panel, response panel. Get workbench, .get added status, .add, log panel, URLs. Get workbench, .get added select, .add, sitemap panel, sites. Get workbench, .get added work, .seed alternative apparent, mainframe.get pane display. Get workbench, .get added status, .seed alternative apparent, mainframe.get pane display. Get workbench, .get added select, .seed alternative apparent, mainframe.get pane display. Public void post init. Get workbench, .get added status, .add, output panel. Public int show confirm dialog, string message. Return jobshinpane.show confirm dialog, get mainframe, message, constant.program _name, jobshinpane.ok cancel option. Public int show esna cancel dialog, string message. Return jobshinpane.show confirm dialog, get mainframe, message, constant.program _name, jobshinpane.yes no cancel option. Public void show warning dialog, string message. Jobshinpane.show message dialog, get mainframe, message, constant.program _name, jobshinpane.warning message. Public void show message dialog, string message. Jobshinpane.show message dialog, get mainframe, message, constant.program _name, jobshinpane.information message. Public static view gets Ingleton. If view equals null. View equals new view. View.init. Return view. Public void show find dialog. If find dialog equals null. Find dialog equals new find dialog, mainframe, false. Find dialog.set visible, true. At return returns the site tree panel. Public sitemap panel get site tree panel. Return sitemap panel. Public output panel get output panel. Return output panel. Public HTTP panel get request panel. If request panel equals null. Request panel equals new HTTP panel, false. Request panel dot set name, request. Return request panel. Public HTTP panel get response panel. If response panel equals null. Response panel equals new HTTP panel, false. Response panel dot set name, response. Response panel dot set message, false. Return response panel. Public session dialog get session dialog, string title. String root equals. If session dialog equals null. Session dialog equals new session dialog, get mainframe, true, title, session. Session dialog dot add param panel, root, new session general panel. Session dialog dot set title, title. Return session dialog. Public options dialog get options dialog, string title. String root equals. If options dialog equals null. Options dialog equals new options dialog, get mainframe, true, title. Options dialog dot add param panel, root, new options connection panel. Options dialog dot add param panel, root, new options local proxy panel. Options dialog dot add param panel, root, new options authentication panel. Options dialog dot add param panel, root, new options spider panel. Options dialog dot add param panel, root, new options scanner panel. Options dialog dot add param panel, root, new options certificate panel. Options dialog dot add param panel, root, new options view panel. Options dialog dot add param panel, root, new options trap panel. Options dialog dot set title, title. Return options dialog. Public workbench panel get workbench. Return mainframe dot get workbench. Public void set status, string message. If message equals null message equals. Message equals. Mainframe dot set status, message. Public main pop-up menu get pop-up menu. Main pop-up menu pop-up equals new main pop-up menu, pop-up list. Return pop-up. Public vector get pop-up list. Return pop-up list. Public wait message dialog get wait a message dialog, string s. Wait message dialog equals new wait message dialog, get mainframe, true. Dialog dot set text, s. Dialog dot center dialog. Return dialog. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.http panel. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.mainframe. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.main pop-up menu. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.output panel. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.sitemap panel. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.wait message dialog. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public Interface View Delegate. Public Mainframe get Mainframe. Public Sitemap Panel get Sitetree Panel. Public Output Panel get Output Panel. Public int show confirm dialog, string message. Public int show ESNA cancel dialog, string message. Public void show warning dialog, string message. Public void show message dialog, string message. Public wait message dialog get wait a message dialog, string message. Public main pop-up menu get pop-up menu. Public void set status, string message. Public HTTP panel get request panel. Public HTTP panel get response panel. Package org.parosproxy.paros.view. Import java.awt.frame. Import java.awt.gridbag constraints. Import java.awt.gridbag layout. Import java.awt.headless exception. Import javax.swing.jlabel. Import javax.swing.jpanel. Import org.parosproxy.paros.extension.abstract dialog. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class wait message dialog extends abstract dialog. Private jpanel equals null. Private jlabel LBL message equals null. At throws headless exception. Public wait message dialog, throws headless exception. Super. Initialize. At param arg0. At param arg1. At throws headless exception. Public wait message dialog, frame arg0, boolean arg1, throws headless exception. Super, arg0, arg1. Initialize. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. This set cursor, new java.awt.cursor, java.awt.cursor.wait_cursor. This set content pane, get jpanel. This set size, 282, 118. This set default closey operation, javax.swing.window_constants.do_nothing_on_close. This set resizable, false. This method initializes jpanel. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel. If jpanel equals null. Jpanel equals new jpanel. Jpanel.set layout, new gridbag layout. Gridbag constraints 2 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 1 equals new gridbag constraints. LBL message equals new jlabel. LBL message.set text. Gridbag constraints 1.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.ipadx equals 273. Gridbag constraints 1.ipad equals 79. Gridbag constraints 2.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 2.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 2.ipadx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 2.ipad equals 0. Gridbag constraints 2.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 20,20,20,20. jpanel.add, LBL message, gridbag constraints 2. Return jpanel. Public void set text, string s. LBL message.set text, s. This pack. At javdicl index equals 0 visual constraint equals 10,10. Package org.parosproxy.paros.view. Import javax.swing.jpanel. Import java.awt.card layout. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class workbench panel extends jpanel. Private javax.swing.jsplitepane splitvert equals null. Private javax.swing.jsplitepane split horizon equals null. Private javax.swing.jpanel pane status equals null. Private javax.swing.jpanel pane select equals null. Private javax.swing.jpanel pane work equals null. Private org.parosproxy.paros.view.tabbed panel tabbed status equals null. Private org.parosproxy.paros.view.tabbed panel tabbed work equals null. Private org.parosproxy.paros.view.tabbed panel tabbed select equals null. This is the default constructor. Public workbench panel. super. Initialize. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. java.awt.gridBag constraints constraints 1 equals new java.awt.gridBag This dot set layout, new java.awt.gridBag layout. This dot set size, 800, 600. This dot set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 800,600. Gridbag constraints 1.grids equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.weights equals 1.0. Gridbag constraints 1.weight equals 1.0. Gridbag constraints 1.fill equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.both. This dot add, get split vert, gridbag constraints 1. This method initializes split vert. At return javax.swing.jsplitepane. Private javax.swing.jsplitepane get split vert. If split vert equals null. Split vert equals new javax.swing.jsplitepane. Split vert.set divider location, 480. Split vert.set divider size, 3. Split vert.set orientation, javax.swing.jsplitepane.vertical_split. Split vert.stresize weight, 0.5 d. Split vert.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 800,400. Split vert.setOp component, get splitheries. Split vert.set bottom component, get pane status. Split vert.set continuous layout, false. Return split vert. This method initializes split horizon. At return javax.swing.jsplitepane. Private javax.swing.jsplitepane get splitheries. If split horizon equals null. Split horizon equals new javax.swing.jsplitepane. Split horizon.set left component, get pane select. Split horizon.straight component, get pane work. Split horizon.set divider location, 280. Split horizon.set divider size, 3. Split horizon.stresize weight, 0.3 d. Split horizon.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 800,400. Split horizon.set continuous layout, false. Split horizon.set border, javax.swing.borderFactory.createTypeBorder, 0,0,0,0. Return split horizon. This method initializes pane status. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private javax.swing.jpanel get pane status. If pane status equals null. Pane status equals new javax.swing.jpanel. Pane status.set layout, new card layout. Pane status.set border, javax.swing.borderFactory.createTypeBorder, 0,0,0,0. Pane status.add, getAbid status, getAbidStatus.getName. Return pane status. This method initializes pane select. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private javax.swing.jpanel get pane select. If pane select equals null. Pane select equals new javax.swing.jpanel. Pane select.set layout, new card layout. Pane select.set border, javax.swing.borderFactory.createTypeBorder, 0,0,0,0. Pane select.add, getAbidSelect, getAbidSelect.getName. Return pane select. This method initializes pane work. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private javax.swing.jpanel get pane work. If pane work equals null. Pane work equals new javax.swing.jpanel. Pane work.set layout, new card layout. Pane work.set border, javax.swing.borderFactory.createTypeBorder, 0,0,0,0. Panework.setCursor, new java.awt.cursor, java.awt.cursor.default_cursor. Panework.add, getAddedWork, getAddedWork.getName. Return panework. This method initializes tabbed status. At return proof secure.paros.view.paros tabbed pane. Public org.paros proxy.paros.view.tabbed panel getAdded status. If tabbed status equals null. Tabbed status equals new org.paros proxy.paros.view.tabbed panel. Tabbed status.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 800,200. Tabbed status.set tab placement, javax.swing.jtabbed pane.bottom. Tabbed status.set name, tabbed status. Tabbed status.set border, javax.swing.borderFactory.createEmpty 0,0,0,0. Return tabbed status. This method initializes tabbed work. At return proof secure.paros.view.paros tabbed pane. Public org.paros proxy.paros.view.tabbed panel getAdded work. If tabbed work equals null. Tabbed work equals new org.paros proxy.paros.view.tabbed panel. Tabbed work.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 600,400. Tabbed work.set name, tabbed work. Tabbed work.set border, javax.swing.borderFactory.createEmpty border, 0,0,0,0. Return tabbed work. This method initializes tabbed select. At return proof secure.paros.view.paros tabbed pane. Public org.paros proxy.paros.view.tabbed panel getAdded select. If tabbed select equals null. Tabbed select equals new org.paros proxy.paros.view.tabbed panel. Tabbed select.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 200,400. Tabbed select.set name, tabbed select. Tabbed select.set border, javax.swing.borderFactory.createEmpty border, 0,0,0,0. Return tabbed select.